Every day, you wake up as your own boss, making your own way. Every day, you continue your journey to change the world, your team, and yourself. Every day, you encourage, congratulate, celebrate, and reach toward your goal of being the best and providing the best. The Build Your Best Business Show is for you. The real stories of building a business from other owners and founders along the journey. Find the support and advice you need to successfully start, grow, manage, and exit your business. What are you going to do today to build your best business?
Welcome to Build Your Best Business. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. Build Your Best Business focuses on the entrepreneurial journey. What does it take to successfully start, manage, grow, and eventually exit a business? Today, we're talking with Stephen Garten. He is the CEO and founder of Chairty Charge. So, Stephen, first off, tell us a little bit about Chairty Charge. What do you guys do?
Sure. First and foremost, thank you, Eric, for having me on the show. I'm happy to be here with you. Chairty Charge is a public benefit corporation, and we created a co-branded credit card with MasterCard.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's an easy way for people to give back. So essentially, every time you use Chairty Charge, you earn cash back. It's automatically then donated to any nonprofit of your choice.
Very
you can use it around the world, wherever MasterCard's accepted. There's no annual fee. And again, all the donations that you earn are also tax deductible for yourself.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you can deduct the transactions. I did something similar when my daughter's in college now, and before not for charity, I guess if you consider myself charity, but there was a program where you could put money into like a Section 529 plan and do a contribution. So it seems similar, but has a different purpose behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you might be alluding to You Promise.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I had a partnership with Sally Mae, and I'm not sure if they still have that card around, but it essentially, in the same way, I mean, there's this whole, all these programs out there, whether it's a Southwest card or an Amazon card or a Walmart card or a You Promise credit card or a Chairty Charge card, just different way for people to use these co-branded credit cards to earn value, whether they're, rewards to the retailer, into their children's college savings plan like you were doing, or in our case, letting people be able to make donations every time they make a purchase.
Yeah. So talk to me, where did that idea come from? I mean, did you grow up always wanting to be in the credit card charge arena or nonprofit space? Like what brought you to this?
Not really. I mean, I'll tell you kind of how the epiphany came about, but I think in order to give it context, I'll step back a second. When I was in college, unfortunately, my father passed away from cancer. I was a sophomore, 19 at the time, and he was 53. And, naturally, I mean, I'm 31 now, and I'm part of this millennial generation that's really focused on, how to make an impact and focusing more on fulfillment over achievement. And those things really are real, and they really resonate with me. But especially losing my father, and he was at such a young age, in college, it really made me realize that cliche that life is short.
Yeah.
Something that I realized around me was that the way that people approached philanthropy was, and how I had been raised is, it was once people had worked a corporate career, saved up a lot of money. Once they retired, they decided then that was their chance to, give back and stuff. And for me, I really was on this mission to figure out a way, how could I create basically my career and the act of philanthropy and tie those two together. So fast forward a number of years, I had been doing some entrepreneurial things.
What were some of those entrepreneurial things before this?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, growing up, I just did standard stuff like car washes and shoveling snow. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. I live in Austin, Texas now.
Of course you do.
In high school, I really got into kind of the technology side of things. So learned how to build websites, build computers, set up computer networks, and did that for a handful of businesses in the Baltimore area. In college, I started this business called Laundry Connect, which was basically a wash, dry, fold laundry service that we essentially were the middleman. We contracted out with a local laundromat in town and then did sales and marketing and collected college students' dirty laundry and then provided that as a service back to them to clean it and whatnot. So did those things. And then I think I felt, very much after college, I finally, decided to move down to Austin, Texas about 18 months after college. And it was there that I got my first job in Austin with a group called the Austin Technology Incubator. It's a part of
Yeah,
really great group. It's actually founded in 1989 and assists a lot of startup companies, in the Central Texas area. And I would say over the past 10 years or so, there's been a significant rise of accelerators like the Y Combinators and the 500 startups of the world. But this was really a precursor to all of that. But at any rate,
that's crazy because I interviewed back in the mid 90s for a company that was part of that was like a legal deal. But yeah, and we consider moving to Austin for about a nanosecond. So
that's great. Yeah, they have a pretty long kind of storied history, and their ties into a lot of things and connections with a lot of people. So I'm happy to hear that. I hope you had a good experience.
Oh yeah, I love the town. I've been there a couple times for different companies and things like that. So yeah.
Absolutely. I'll try to get to the punchline here. So while I was there at ATI, I was just surrounded by all these entrepreneurs and, really decided that I wanted to kind of make this leap into, entrepreneurial endeavor back into it. And long story short, I had signed up for this credit card along the way, and I was using it, and I was accumulating all these bonus points. And I remember it came the end of the year, I went into my bank's website to see, because I was like, I must have all these points. Well, I see my point balance and I'm scrolling through, and I probably spent 45 minutes on their reward catalog. And I'm, they're offering me things. Hey, for 25,000 points, you can get this Olive Garden gift card, or 50,000 points, you get this pair of binoculars. And I'm scrolling through there for 45 minutes or so. And I was really agonizing over what am I going to redeem all these points for?
Right.
And then I just grew frustrated with the whole process. There was nothing on there that I cared, that I wanted. I didn't need more stuff. I didn't need more junk. Didn't need more things. So I logged off, and the very next thing that happened was I checked my email. A local nonprofit that I had supported in Austin sent me an end-of-year fundraising drive email, that they were running. And that's when it hit me that I've been using this credit card. I've been accumulating all this so-called value in these points, but for me, there was no value. And I thought, I've got this nonprofit I want to support. What if there could be an easy way that every time I use my credit card, I could give back to them?
Yeah.
And that was really kind of the initial germ of the idea, or the epiphany for it.
Yeah, I owned a research company for a while, and we did a study on spender saver. So you're either a spender or you're a saver, and you never change. So if you spend money, then you're a spender. If you're a saver, you always save it. And the way that as you move up in your income and have your needs met, the more you want to spend and save for other people. So these reward programs don't work for you because you can go out and buy or do whatever you want to. So having a way to give that to someone else, that's why you see these kind of programs where, hey, I want to do something with it. I want the reward, but I need it to go to someone else. So that's a really smart way to think about it.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate hearing that from you too. I mean, I'll share some insight just for people listening in and kind of the implications of the industry at large. I mean, there's over 200 million credit card holders in the United States. Have on average 3 to 4 cards each. The industry is over $4 trillion. But the really interesting thing is that 31% of consumers never, ever redeem their reward points. So that's over $16 billion every year.
16 billion with a B. Wow.
Yeah, B. That's what the credit card industry calls breakage, right? They don't advertise that fact, but their kind of goal, their mission is, how do we maximize our profits? How do we maximize our bottom line? So they come up with all these gimmicks and all these schemes to market, the perception super high of, get this credit card, it's going to change your life, you earn all these points. You end up getting it, you realize that you don't want half the stuff that they're marketing it to, that there's blackout dates and, things like that to prevent you from using them and making it easy. Or there's point thresholds, right? You've got to earn X amount of points to then redeem it for that gift card. So really, our mission is more profits for nonprofits. Our credit card lets cardholders earn 1% cash back, but we have no breakage. You pick your nonprofits up front. You can support up to 3 at a time, and then that cash back automatically flows to those nonprofits.
So more profits for nonprofits.
Correct. Yeah.
Is that your tagline?
It's one of them. I mean, it's funny.
You rush through it. You need to say that with a little like.
I can say it again. Sure. I mean, look, I think that a lot of this show, and, we've chatted before, a lot of your interest in what you're sharing is about kind of the entrepreneurial journey. So, that was something that I had only come up with, I think a couple months ago, as we were kind of clawing back into some of our messaging about how we kind of communicate what we're doing to our nonprofit audience. But, I think it tries to hit at the core of what we're doing, which is being a public benefit corporation, and just the nature of why I created this company. It's trying to give people an easy way to be able to give back and really help out nonprofits. And, when you think about any of these too big to fail banks, their mission, and to be candid, it's their total goal is to maximize shareholder value. So absolutely, they're looking out for themselves first and devise these schemes to really do whatever they can to market a credit card that's ultimately going to fund themselves more than the consumer.
And so you have this epiphany, you say, hey, there's got to be a better way to use these points and to, benefit a nonprofit that I care about. Did you know enough about credit cards to move from there? What did you do next? Like, how did you start this path?
Yeah, I really had no clue, but something that I had learned at ATI that was a really good lesson, that awesome technology incubator, was just the benefit of reaching out to other people in a given industry that had been doing some sort of similar business model. So what I quickly found, just doing some Google searches, I got exposed to that co-brand credit card model I mentioned earlier. So, I diving in, spending 10 minutes of time, you start to realize that Southwest Airlines has their credit card. Amazon has a credit card. Walmart has a credit card. Right up the street from where I'm sitting, the University of Texas, their alumni association, has an affinity credit card with Bank of America. So I noticed that all these huge established organizations had somehow created their own credit card. And what I did was really just started Googling and looking on LinkedIn for co-brand credit card consultants. I thought, if I could get some of these people on the phone that have experience setting up these partnerships, I can kind of break down the business model that they're pursuing with the banks and try to replicate that. So that was the first step. And, I remember I reached out to initially about 20 credit card consultants. I think the first 17 or so hung up on me really quickly, or just never even got back to me. I mean, again, when the credit card consultant, and I still have, one of the consultants that I went out to that I asked for help to put this together, they were really nice. I met with them at their offices in New York. They put together, they took me out to lunch. But again, their clients are like the Southwest Airlines of the world, and they're
they're expecting like people to bring a customer base, right? So they're like, you're showing up with some customer base.
Right, that's part of it too. But I still have the written out proposal that they sent me back, where they wanted at minimum me to pay them $250,000 for them to help me, walk me through the process and pitch banks and negotiate the contracts and implementation and launch and all that stuff.
So we're going to go to break because I want to find out. So you get a proposal for $250,000, but you continue on. So how did you end up breaking through that? So we'll do that when we get just back in a second. You're listening to Build Your Best Business. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. We're talking today with Stephen Garten. He is the CEO and founder of Chairty Charge, and we'll be back in just a minute. Congratulations, you're your own boss. Now comes the hard part. It's not just about starting a business, it's about successfully managing and growing that business to an eventual exit. And along that entrepreneurial journey, you're going to run into questions and problems that you need quick answers to. Things like, do you need a business plan? How do you read a balance sheet? How do you talk to an investor? When do you bring on a founder? Or what if you're having problems with your partner? These are the types of things that you run into as you're trying to grow that business to the next level, and they may not be the things you want to share in public with other people. They're the problems and issues that arise that, as I have experienced along my own entrepreneurial journey, that I needed to have someone I could trust to reach out to and have a conversation and get a different perspective. And it was often those short conversations that would be the thing that moved me from where I was to where I needed to be. It's for that reason I created the On-Demand CXO product offering. On-Demand CXO is something that you can use to have a conversation with a trusted advisor about what's going on in your business. We do a 1-hour phone call to talk about your business, talk about your objectives, and understand what it's going to take to move you from where you are today to where you want to be tomorrow. From there, you have ongoing access to a Slack channel to ask me questions in private about what's going on in your business so that I can provide some advice or connections to my network to individuals who can help you solve against that problem. You will also have access to my Facebook page, which is full of other entrepreneurs who are along the same journey, to have more broad conversations, things that you trust and would talk about in a networking event. But when you need to go and have that conversation with a trusted advisor, you will have the ability to have a conversation with me in a place that's safe, completely anonymous, and unbiased. I want to see you succeed and build your very best business. And we're back. You're listening to Build Your Best Business. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. Today we're talking with Stephen Garten. He is the CEO and founder of Chairty Charge. Created Chairty Charge out of frustration for what to do with all of those points at the end of the year, which I have several cards that I could totally relate to. I look at them, I'm like, I don't know what to do with these, and I don't need any more of that or this. So you said that you've gone out to some credit card consultants, some people that could have potentially helped you that do maybe like private label or co-branded kind of versions, and that you got some, either no one paid attention to you or they gave you a huge proposal. So where'd you go from there?
Yeah, I mean, I remember at the time that this big consulting firm offered just that, in order to help out, that they wanted me to pay them, a minimum of $250,000. So that was pretty much a no-go. I think I tried to block that out, but that was a huge roadblock. I remember being, super upset and wondering, how I'd be able to move it forward. But one of the people that I actually connected with when I did the initial outreach was a gentleman named Hunter Woolley, who at the time was working for, you could call it a competitor to that consulting firm, and so a different consulting firm. And he was just such a really nice, generous guy, gave me a lot of his time, for free, answered a ton of questions and everything. So it turns out that shortly thereafter, he actually was hired by MasterCard to run their co-brand business development team.
Oh, wow.
And, that's kind of one of the gatekeepers. In order to get a co-brand credit card launched, you kind of need two sides. So you need to have a payment network, mainly either Visa or MasterCard, and then you also need to have a credit card issuer. So, in our case, we have MasterCard as our payment network, and then Commerce Bank on the back is our credit card issuer. They're a top 20 issuer. Southwest Airlines, for example, has a partnership with Chase and as their issuer, their bank issuer, and then they have an agreement as well with Visa as their payment network. So,
okay.
At any rate, Hunter went over to MasterCard. So I thought, when I heard that, I thought that was pretty good news and stayed in touch with him. But, for any of the audience listening, what I found and what helped us out was two things. One, I really was sharing the idea with a lot of people and really trying to get feedback and kind of build my network and build kind of support about what I was trying to do. I applied for an accelerator program that was focused on helping social impact companies in the Austin area called Unlimited USA, and was run by a really sweet woman named Zoe. So we didn't end up getting in the accelerator, and that's a little bit of a different story, but I really maintained a really great positive relationship with her. And she ultimately passed my name on to IBM that was planning this social entrepreneurship competition during South by Southwest.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, it's about 2 years ago. So long story short, we had pretty much only come up with the name, working with someone actually in your town, the Reeses, Al and Laura Reese.
Okay.
Helped come out, flew in Atlanta, and we met with them, and we branded Chairty Charge. We pretty much just had a website where you could get on the waiting list type of thing, like a coming soon splash page.
Well, you see, but that helps. I was going to ask you that question. Did you have that kind of thing? Because you'd need to show some demand for it, right? I mean, that's one of the differences that you didn't have. You weren't bringing them an alumni group or your Southwest, frequent flyers or whatever.
That's definitely part of it. And kind of, I'll try to jump through this point, but all we had, was kind of the concept and a splash page. But IBM reached out and said, "Hey, we love what you guys were doing. We're putting together this competition." And so I competed in this reality show that they put together. And at the end of it, they named Chairty Charge and me as one of the top 5 social impact companies in the country. We had no partnerships. We had no business. I know, and we were competing alongside businesses that had real revenue and all these things. But it's a little bit of kind of the ridiculous nature right now, I would say, of entrepreneurship and kind of startups, and a lot of companies that are throwing ridiculous resources to get into this kind of equation of we want to seem cool and hip and like we're entrepreneurial. So coming out of that, I was now dubbed one of the top 5 social impact entrepreneurs in the world. And we got some press and there was a ton of content and all of these things. So that was really what gave me, the confidence, but then also some credibility. It wasn't me when I went back now to Hunter and MasterCard and the bank issuers. It wasn't Steven just saying, well, I kind of have this idea. I sent over a bunch of content and referenced, IBM has picked us as one of the top 5 social impact companies. And along those ways, I learned the things you're talking about. We went out to a handful of larger organizations. We're able to explain our concept. We're able to get them to commit to help us market the product if we brought it to market. So it was the confluence of a lot of those things coming together. But I think the big thing that I learned is the 2 things there is one, I leveraged the heck out of Google and LinkedIn just to reach cold outreach to people that were doing similar concepts, so I could try to replicate their business model and learn from them.
Yeah.
And 2, I was able to play up the fact that I was able to get credibility from other people, that I was then able to take that and just parlay that credibility to start marching the business forward.
Well, that's something that I've heard from several investors about, even doing successful Kickstarter campaigns and things like that. It's not really about the money you raised. It's the fact that you show demand for your product or service and that you can market it. So that earned media component that you got, that's awesome. That was definitely very helpful to moving you to the next level. So from there, you then had to start building a team. Like, what were some of the things that you ran into? When did you get the first cards in hand? I'm just really curious about when you had a card in hand.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, how much time do we have on? Yeah, look, if I'm gonna fast forward to the launch, so that summer we initially basically in a sense had a partnership offer from MasterCard. Also went out, was negotiating with Visa as well. Ultimately had to pick exclusivity with them, with one of them, went with MasterCard, and pitched about 12 different issuing banks. Ultimately settled on Commerce Bank, and that was a whole really ridiculous process in and of itself. But our first cards, to answer your question, were issued in just over a year ago. So June of 2016, we officially launched the company.
Okay. June of 2016?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. All right. And so moving along, is it clipped the way that you expected, or what, have you gotten in the...
It's still continued to be a humbling process. I mean, month over month, we're growing. We continue to get more traction, but we're constantly trying to figure out different ways to both grow traffic, and build awareness about what we're doing, and then also convert that traffic when it's on our website through better messaging or just better storytelling about the product and stuff. I think I don't want to come on your show and say anything that's not the truth, right, or mislead people about entrepreneurship. So I'll share an anecdote. When we launched in June of 2016, I was able to coordinate and get us featured in Fast Company. So they broke the story. And then after that, Today's Show picked us up, and Huffington Post and Chronicle of Philanthropy. And, it was a really great kind of wild press ride. But when we initially launched right then, it was still me running the company. Right. We didn't have a CRM set up. My first full-time employee came on the next month in July. So although we got, I initially thought we're on Today's Show, we made it. We're going to open up millions of card accounts. I'm going to make millions of dollars. We're going to give back tens of millions of dollars and all this stuff. We've had to just keep at it. It has not been that, massive overnight success that I thought we might get just by being on the Today Show. So I think kind of the lesson that I, learned out of that is that, this whole concept of entrepreneurship and overnight success, those are two, very simple things.
Overnight success, 10 years in the making. So
exactly. So, I'm trying to stick at it and just respect the process. Something that's, that's working well for us is just having these opportunities. I really appreciate being able to be on your show because, we've realized that there's a huge audience of podcasters and nonprofits, social impact, and all of that. So that's, to be really tactical right now, that's one of the things that we're pursuing, is trying to figure out how we can share our story and doing a lot of outreach to different shows like yourself, like yours, as a way to just expose our concept and our company to new audiences.
Well, telling your story, it's 20 to 28 times that somebody even recognizes you exist as a brand. So you got to tell the story over and over and over again. You're like, I'm certain I've told it before. So talk to me about future. So are there other things, like other offers you guys are expecting or thinking about? What does the future look like for Chairty Charge?
Sure. So we're around the corner from launching 2 new card products that I'm really excited about. So today, as I brought up, we have our consumer credit card. Anyone can get this card, add it to their wallet, even if they're not using it for everything, just buy a cup of coffee, buy groceries, be able to do good and feel good. But 2 new products that we're about to launch, I'm really excited about. One is a 501c3 card. So it's actually for the nonprofits themselves.
Okay. Yep.
And, we heard from nonprofits that they wanted cards for their staff, employees, for the organization. And then we're also launching a social impact business card. So companies can use it for their business expenses and be able to easily give back and write it off. So we're really excited about those 2 new products.
Anything in the gift card category? Have you thought about that?
I personally haven't. I mean, if you've got some ideas, we can talk now or offline about that. There are some players that do that. But really our focus so far has just been on the consumer and now business card lines.
Yeah, I launched a stored value product for a company back in the early 2000s, and stored value has a similar breakage number that you talk about. Like, people don't use all of their gift card, and there's this little leftover piece, and then you're like, what do I do with that $3, right? So anyway, well, very good. Well, we wish you the best of luck.
I appreciate that. I say the same to you.
Yeah, So love the story, love the fact that you took something that you thought of and decided to turn it in. Solving your own problem can be a great way to come up with a business, as long as you can find other people who feel like they have the same problem, and you definitely have one that's universal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, it was definitely a product that I wanted, and I thought that, someone had to do it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to wait around for, a bank to try to do it, because I just knew that didn't fit their mission and their values.
Yeah, it didn't fit their mission and might not even be perceived by the consumer in the right way at the end of the day.
Right.
So, yeah. Well, very nice. We're talking with Stephen Garten. He's the CEO and founder of Chairty Charge. We'll put all the information in our show notes of how to get your own card, and also reach out and learn more about Stephen's journey. You've been listening to Build Your Best Business. Until next time, what are you going to do to build your very best business?